Hi everyone, this is Balazs from Racing Brick. The next set to review from the Technic Wave of August 2024 is the 42173 Koenigsegg Jesko Absolute in Grey. There is another edition of this car, the 42184 Jesko in white, which strangely has a different review embargo, so I can only show it later. But based on the equal piece count, these are actually the same sets in a different color. So we see the car on the front of the box, this time in grey. On the back we see the rear view, the steering function, a side view of the real car with some impressive specs, and a look at the engine of the Lego model. Let's open the box. The set has 801 pieces, it will be available from the 1st of August, the price is €53 or $50, and you can already pre-order it in some countries. All local prices and details can be found at the link below. This is an old school box with old school content, 7 plastic bags, a nice big sticker sheet and the manual. For small sets there is no additional information in the instructions. We have the contents of the back of the box repeated on this page and the real car with the Lego model on the next one. I don't see why they couldn't point in the same direction though. Here's the parts list if you are interested, and now let's start building. We begin with the chassis and the hand-of-God steering setup. Here's an unexpected little system assembly and a surprising usage of this long steering rack because it has nothing to do with the steering. This is the first appearance of the new cam parts from the Kawasaki motorcycle in a different set, and also the pistons. We have a nice V8. I know these pistons aren't any more realistic than the half pins or cross axles with stop, but at least it's something different at this scale. The engine goes here, then comes the differential. Yes, after all these years, the newest member of the car transporter gang has a differential. It is directly connected to the engine. This is also something new. Oh, I found the advantage of the new pistons over the ones made of cross axles. These work upside down too. And now it's time to reveal the purpose of the long steering rack, and it's pretty awesome. We have this assembly with the gears. The 12-tooth gear sits on a blue axle pin with friction so it doesn't move by itself. The whole thing becomes part of the door opening mechanism. The way it's held in place is pretty cool too. This part goes here, the other one flips up, and the axle holds them together. Finally, we have cool functional stuff in a $50 car set. This is the build at the end of phase 2. The first stickered pieces are the headrests, and another surprise part, a 13x3 frame. The assembly goes here, and we also have a new style stickered seat. Here's a couple of system parts for the rear. Then it's time to add the steering rack, and there's a tricky solution to attaching that assembly as well. This is how things get fixed there. Here's the front of the car, and there's a cleaver, just like in the Speed Champions version. That's a cool reference. This is another assembly with wing parts that's tricky to mount because of all the different angles. More system parts for the dashboard and steering wheel, and here's an iconic detail of these cars, the windshield wiper in its central position. The detailing with non-technical elements continues, and we have this nice half-stud offset with the half pins and the connectors. An unexpected air scoop piece, and then a packaging mistake. Instead of the second 4L cross axle, I have this black beam that shouldn't be there at this stage. A similarly sized but incorrect part is much more common than an actual missing piece. It's a pretty complex 3-dimensional structure again, and with a few more small wings, this is the end of phase 4. This will definitely be the most complex car at this scale for a long time. There are so many tricky assemblies, I have strong Speed Champions vibes, and not just because of these light pieces. I guess it gets boring after a while, but can you see all those crazy angles? The V-shaped blue beams, the bionicle wing elements, and it's not over yet, oh no, far from it. Here's another section of this geometric madness. These parts are somehow magically aligned, and at the end we have this engine cover, which is probably the most complex Technic assembly I've built this year. Here comes the door. Look at those panels overlapping the tile. Now it's time to install it, and we can study the dihedral synchro helix actuation door system, which pushes the door out when you open it. That's awesome. After the engine cover, which can be opened and remains up, comes the front fender section with the new shorter curved panels. Here's a fairly large system assembly to fill this gap here, then comes the rear view mirror. The roof is another interesting hybrid build. Here's the A-pillar, a little detail at the rear, and the hand-of-God steering knob. The rear wheels are wider and also have a wheel cover. Here's the front one, and we are done. So here's the finished model. I have to say it looks pretty cool, although I'm sure there will be two different groups of fans. Some will like it, others will hate it. We'll come back to the looks in a moment, but first let's check the features. Firstly, the doors. I just love the way they work. The movement is very smooth, they rattle a bit when you close them, but the open position is surprisingly stable. We have hand-of-God steering, which is very easy to operate, and there's a cool trick. The knob is removable, and I think this is the first time in this series it fits perfectly in the frunk. That slope holds it securely in place, it doesn't move, just perfect. We have a hinged engine cover that stays in place by itself, but if you want to make sure, there's also a rod to support it. We can see our working V8 driven through the rear differential, and yes, it still works upside down. So, this $50 car is packed with cool technical solutions, and apart from the suspension, it has virtually all the features of the bigger Technic cars you get for a lot more money. I think this is what a Technic car should look like: affordable, compact, and yet you can see something cool on every other page of the manual. It's full of playable functions, that's just great. Now on the looks, and to put this car in perspective, here are a few other members of the car transporter gang. I think this scale in Technic is really not about accuracy, although this set has used a surprising amount of system parts for the details. There are some pretty good angles, but also some less fortunate ones. But honestly, that doesn't bother me. I think it's perfectly fine for this scale, and for me this balance between looks and functionality is totally acceptable. I would rather have a car with interesting features than another oversized Technic sculpture. The car is quite sturdy, so it's definitely playable, although there are some parts you shouldn't touch, like this section under the door or the A-pillars. Well, those are probably the weakest part of the set. And an important factor, it also looks nice together with the Speed Champions version. Should you buy it? Yes, definitely, absolutely. I thought I would give the white version to my son to build, but I will probably build it myself just to have the nice experience again. You can already pre-order it on lego.com in Europe and probably in some other regions as well. The release date is the 1st of August. If you like Technic, if you like cars, if you like working functions and tricky building solutions, then I think this is a must-have. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe with notifications, because there will be more exciting LEGO videos coming soon. See you next time, bye bye.